Hello everyone, in this video will be a 2028 election prediction, this assuming that Biden narrowly wins the second term, and it'll probably be a very close election overall in 2024. Anything could happen, but that's just the scenario we're assuming for this. But yeah, Gretchen Whitmer, she's the governor of Michigan up against the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, who kind of suffered a setback in last Tuesday's elections. He pretty much lost control of the Virginia legislature, both houses. So now he doesn't have as much power, and he's pretty much a lame duck governor at this point. But again, he still will be a very important presidential contender in the future. He would probably be one of the Republicans' best bet at winning an election just because of that unique geographical advantage he has with being governor of Virginia, which would definitely help him carry the state in an election, in a presidential election, which is quite monumental because most Republicans aren't able to do that. But other than that, if you aren't subscribed to the channel already, I'd highly recommend doing so. We're almost at 1,000 subs. We're getting closer and closer every day hitting that. But let's get right into it. So Colorado, safe Democratic state. I really don't think would be that competitive. But New Mexico, Glenn Youngkin did quite well with Latino voters in Virginia, so I could see him doing just a bit better with the Latino voters. He would definitely be seen as a more moderate type of Republican, so he would have that unique appeal. In Virginia, we'll probably save that one for the end. But Iowa and Ohio, I just think Iowa would be safe Republican. Again, 8 years of Democratic Party control would probably make the state safe red at this point. And I think Democrats won't really contest it as much as they usually did. Nebraska's second. Again, it's a very suburban district, even though Glenn Young can do a lot better than most Republicans here. I think this would be a lean D House seat, pretty much. I just don't think that Whitmer would lose this district. She is a terrible Democratic candidate. She's probably one of the better ones out there. Ohio, I just think it would be a likely Republican. I think he would still get most of the base united behind him, even though he's kind of anti-union in some regards. He probably would still win Ohio by a likely margin just because of the trends here are so against Democrats in the future. Okay, the next few states. I guess we could head to Maine and New Hampshire. Maine would probably go in a likely blue, and Glenn Youngkin probably wins here by a likely Republican margin, while New Hampshire probably goes down to lean blue, but Whitmer still wins because, again, it's a pretty socially liberal state, and Glenn Youngkin's still somewhat socially right-wing, so I just don't think he'd feel the best here in New Hampshire against Whitmer. In the two southern states of Florida and Texas, at this point, I think Florida just becomes a safe Republican state. I think Youngkin would be pretty easily able to win here in Florida by a pretty decent margin, while Texas, even though it's trending Democratic every year, I just still think Glenn Youngkin would be able to unite a lot of the Republican base here. He wouldn't get as terrible margins as some Republicans have been getting lately in just the urban and suburban areas. Probably be able to reverse the clock on that a bit, winning it by a likely margin. North Carolina, he is from neighboring Virginia, but he would definitely perform extremely well in the southern states, probably quite well enough that he wins North Carolina by a 5% margin against Gretchen Whitmer. Georgia, however, it wouldn't go likely Republican, but it would just go about lean Republican. Even with all these trends in Georgia with Atlanta and some suburbs, I think Youngkin would still be able to hold the state. He would still perform quite well with those suburban independents, which pretty much are enough to swing the state, as we've seen in the 2022 governor elections in Georgia. In Alaska, he would be able to win it by a safe Republican margin. He's just the right type of Republican to appeal here. In Nevada and Arizona, tough calls, but I think Glenn Youngkin would be able to narrowly win in Arizona by a tilt Republican. Now I would put it as tilt Republican. Again, Whitmer's quite a decent candidate, so she would do quite well in Arizona, but I just think Youngkin would be able to flip up enough voters here in his favor. Same reasoning with Nevada. I just think with enough independent voters, enough appeal, Republican would be able to win here in this state. The next few states. So Minnesota put as likely Democratic. I think Whitmer would unite most of the populist Democrats here, helping her win by a likely blue margin. Same with the state of Michigan. It's her home state. She'd perform quite decently here, maybe even winning it by a likely margin. But again, we have to assume 8 years of Democratic control. will probably hurt Democrats' margin here, so she would only win by a lean blue margin. In these last three states, I really don't know how it would go, except for Virginia, which I'm for sure confident that Glenn Youngkin would be able to win a narrow victory here. It is his home state. He's a very popular governor, and most polls actually show him winning it in the 2024 election scenario against most candidates. So I think that would hold the same in 2028. I think he'd be able to win this state, thus giving the Republicans enough victories in the Electoral College to actually win the whole thing. So it doesn't matter even what happens in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. We're going to do them anyway. So the state of Pennsylvania, I still think would go to Whitmer again. She's a very populist Democrat, would have a lot of union support, so she'd probably win in Pennsylvania by a tilt blue margin. Wisconsin, however, it doesn't have as much union support as Pennsylvania does, and they do have a history of actually electing someone anti-union before it's Scott Walker. So I think Glenn Youngkin can be able to have a narrow victory here against Gretchen Whitmer in the 2028 election prediction. So overall, Youngkin has a pretty narrow victory, but let me know if you disagree or agree with this video in the comments down below. If you aren't subscribed already, highly recommend doing it. But other than that, I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.